Lesson 8.6, Factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. The objective of this lesson is to factor trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c. In other words, when there's a number in front of your x squared. You can write some trinomials of the form ax squared plus bx plus c as the product of two binomials. To factor a trinomial of the form ax squared plus bx plus c, you should look for factors of the product ac that have a sum of b. This is a little different than what we did in the last lesson because now we have a. So we're looking for for factors of the product ac that add to b. So let's look at problem 1. Factoring when a times c is positive. What is the factored form of 5x squared plus 11x plus 2? Step 1. Find factors of ac that have sum b. Since a is 5 and c is positive 2, 5 times 2 is 10, b is still 11. We're going to find positive factors of 10 that add to 11. So 1 and 10, 2 and 5, the factors are going to be 1 and 10. Step 2, we're going to factor the trinomial. We're going to use the factors you find to rewrite bx. So the original problem is 5x squared plus 11x plus 2. We're going to rewrite that as 5x squared plus 1x plus 10x plus 2. Then we're going to look at this group, 5x squared plus 1x, and we're going to look at 10x plus 2, and we're going to factor out the GCF of each pair of terms. So in 5x squared plus 1x, the GCF is x. When we factor out x, we have 5x plus 1 left over. In the second pair, 10x plus 2, the GCF is 2. When we take out a 2, we're left with 5x plus 1. So then all you have to do to simplify is just group the terms. So x plus 2 times 5x plus 1. You could think of this as the distributive property. So the factored form is x plus 2 times 5x plus 1. Factoring when a times c is negative. What is the factored form of 3x squared plus 4x minus 15? First thing you want to do is you want to multiply a times c. So 3 times negative 15 is negative 45, and b is positive 4. So we're looking for factors of negative 45 that add to 4. So remember, negative, we're looking at for factors of the positive and the negative factors, and they have to add to positive 4. And those two numbers are negative 5 and 9. So again, you rewrite 3x squared plus 4x minus 15. You rewrite bx with your factors. So it becomes 3x squared minus 5x plus 9x minus 15. Group it. So the first two terms, 3x squared minus 5x, the GCF of that is just x. When you factor an x, you get 3x minus 5. The other set is 9x minus 15. The GCF of that is 3. When you factor out a 3, you're left with 3x minus 5. When you go from this step to this step and you're factoring out the GCF, your parentheses should be the same terms. If they're not, you probably factored the GCF out incorrectly. So then use the distributive property to simplify, and the final answer is x plus 3 times 3x minus 5. Applying trinomial factoring. The area of a rectangle is 2x squared minus 13x minus 7. What are the possible dimensions of the rectangle used factoring? We did a problem like this in the last lesson, but now we're going to apply when a is a number. So find factors of AC that have sum b. A times c, 2 times negative 7, is negative 14. So we're looking for factors of negative 14 that add to negative 13. We need a positive and a negative factor. Those numbers are going to be 1 and negative 14. We're going to rewrite negative 13x with 1x and negative 14x. That's what happens here. When we group, we have 2x squared plus x. The GCF is x. Left over is 2x plus 1. When we group negative 14x and negative 7, the GCF is negative 7. We're left with 2x plus 1. So our final answer is x minus 7 times 2x plus 1. So the possible dimensions of the rectangle are 2x plus 1 and x minus 7. Factoring out a monomial first. So just like when we were factoring trinomials, we were looking for the GCF. You can do the same thing here with factoring trinomials. You want to look for the GCF, then factor the remaining polynomial until it is written out as the product of polynomials that cannot be factored any further. So what is the factored form of 18x squared minus 33x plus 12? First you see, these are kind of big numbers. Maybe there's a GCF. The GCF is 3. When you factor out a 3, you're left with 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. Now, I want to make something very clear. You do nothing with this 3x Okay, with this 3, excuse me. See how we don't bring the 3 back in until step 3. So forget about the 3 for now. Look at the trinomial 6x squared minus 11x plus 4. You want to factor that. So a times c is 24. It needs to add to negative 11, so we're looking at the negative factors. So the factors that work are negative 3 and negative 8. Now we bring in the 3 again, and we just leave it on the outside. Okay, so we're going to rewrite bx. So we have 3 times 6x squared minus 3x minus 8x plus 4. Bring the 3 for the ride. And now we're going to factor 6x squared minus 3x. We're going to factor out a 3x. We're left with 2x minus 1. And with negative 8x and positive 4, the GCF is negative 4. When we factor that out, we're left with 2x minus 1. Again, the 3 just comes along for the ride. Okay, we took care of that in the beginning. The final answer is 3 times 3x minus 4 times 2x minus 1. When you factor out the GCF in step 1, that's it. You just factor it out, and you just leave it until the end. It just comes for the ride. Now let's do 2 problems together here. The first one, what is the factored form of 6x squared plus 13x plus 5? Right off the bat, I know that there's no GCF, so I don't have to worry about that. Now I see that a is greater than 1, so I'm going to multiply 6a times c, which is 5. That's equal to 30. So I need to look for factors of positive 30 that are going to add to positive 13. So I'm going to look at only the positive factors. So we have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. When I add those numbers together, I get 31, 17, 13, and 11. So I know that these are my factors, 3 and 10. So I rewrite the original problem, and instead of writing 13x, I use my factors. So I have 6x squared plus 3x plus 10x plus 5. Now I kind of draw a little line after the second term. Now I'm going to factor out this one. So 6x squared plus 3x, the GCF is 3x. Factor that out, I'm left with 2x plus 1. Then I look at the other set. 10x plus 5, the GCF is positive 5. When I factor that out, I'm left with 2x plus 1. At this point, make sure that the terms in the parentheses are identical. If they are, go to your final answer. The final answer is going to be 3x plus 5 times 2x plus 1. Okay. Now let's look at one where you have to factor out the GCF. So the problem is, what is the factored form of 8x squared minus 36x minus 20? So first of all, I know x isn't part of the GCF because 20 doesn't have x attached. So let me look at the numbers 8, 36, and 20. Well, I know for 20, the only factors are 1 and 20, 4, and 5. So think about those numbers, and I know that 4 can go into all 3 terms. So I'm going to take out a 4. When I factor out a 4, I'm left with 2x squared minus 9x minus 5. Now, I'm not going to do anything else with this 4, so I'm going to forget about it right now. I'm going to look at what's inside. I have 2 times negative 5. That's a times c. That's negative 10. So I need to think of factors of negative 10 that add to negative 9. So I'm going to need a positive and a negative factor. I have positive 1 and negative 10. I'm going to have negative 1 and positive 10. 2 and negative 5, and then negative 2 and positive 5. Add them up, 1 and negative 10 get me negative 9. So I can stop right now because I have the factors that I need. So now I'm going to bring 4 back into play. I'm just going to leave it on the outside. So I have 2x squared. Instead of writing minus 9x, I'm going to use my factors. So plus x minus 10x minus 5. And then I'm just going to bring the 4 down. Just comes along for the ride. Now, I'm going to look at first 2 terms. 2x squared plus x. GCF is x. Factor that out. I'm left with 2x plus 1. Now I'm going to look at negative 10x minus 5. GCF there is negative 5. And factor out a negative 5. I'm left with 2x plus 1. And before I go to my final answer, I need to make sure that my parentheses are the same, which they are. So I can go right away to my final answer. Again, bring down the 4 times x minus 5 times 2x plus 1. And there you have it.